Now we're back. It's still very choppy. And now we have to figure out how to actually make the window go into the thing. So like, if I go transform fit to screen, oh, it actually worked this time. It didn't work last time. Okay. Still not really good. Still super choppy for you guys. I give up. We're just going to have to work with this. I don't know what else to do. This is garbage. And the end. It seems worse. Well, that's because this level was always worse. It's something about the encoder is broken. Like when things are moving, it's just kind of broken somehow. This is going to take some time to switch to this level. There we go. Maybe not. I don't know, folks. I just wanted to do work today, and this is how computers reward me for that. Look at the FPS counter in the game. That's where the slowness is now. No, not really, because I'm looking at the OBS and the game simultaneously. And even though the game was missing frames, the picture on OBS was remarkably more choppy as well. Maybe it doesn't capture correctly when the game's missing frames. I don't even know. I don't know. Did I update OBS since last stream? Yes, I just reinstalled it on this new computer. Now I'm tired. Now I don't even want to do real work because I just want to throw my computer out the window. But we're going to try to do some real work. Oh, camera is missing because that's like off the screen now. I'm going to do a transform fit to screen here, and it's probably going to be huge. Oh, center to screen. There we go. Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Does that level get choppy without OBS running? I don't know. I don't care anymore. It's not worth my time. Not worth my time. Okay, let me grab a snack, and then we'll do some actual programming. Before the apocalypse started to happen, I went to many Starbuckses and hoarded Starbucks Marshmallow Dream Bars. So I have a bunch of these. It's like futuristic Soylent Green food, or like Soylent Tan. I mean, hey, nobody else was buying Marshmallow Dream Bars at that time. What is the name of the custom engine? It doesn't have a name. Have I seen Tried Diabolical? I watched some streamer play it for like 5 seconds. I don't really know anything about it. It looks like a shooter with Overwatch graphics for 12-year-olds, but I don't know anything about it besides that, so maybe it's good. Is there something I should know about that game that would make me want to play it? Looks and feels like Quake. Yeah, I mean, I liked Quake 3 back in the Quake 3 days. That was cool back then. Okay, let us try to get productive things done now. So, look at all these windows we have open now, man. It's crazy. So I have on the bug list, now I don't have any idea. Let me turn off the display for a second. I'm done with emails. No, actually maybe not, but there's one email that I want to have up, which is I want to have this one. And I can uncheck all the older weekly animation follow-ups. Okay. So we have some stuff to do. And I'm just going to pick one of them. Pushing variable is not set to false. It's a bug report. I'm trying to move the graphs over to use variables more than messages. Found that when I stop pushing, the pushing is never set back to false. Same happens for pulling. If I use go stay pushing, that message is constantly sent. Right now, I don't really print out the values of variables. So there's nothing to draw on the screen to debug this, but these variables happen here, right? And so there's these pushing ID things. And, you know, I suspect we only set those when we push, and we just never clear them because we didn't think about that. We'll run this blurry program. Why are we finding 0 files? Oh, wait, files. I had the order wrong. Okay, so there's a pushing ID equals 0, but I don't know under what conditions that happens. Probably not the right ones. This is when you undo. No surprise. That's not even correct. Necessarily. Ugh. That wouldn't cause the problem that we are looking at, so we're not going to worry about it. Wait, webcam only? Oh, I forgot to turn on the desktop. Sorry. Sorry, I'm a pro streamer. Who am I? I'm a pro streamer. Why do I have so many views? Because the black screen with a camera in the corner is the best stream. This is the secret that other Twitch streamers have not yet mastered that only I know about. Okay. The question that I'm having in my mind right now, well, the thing that I think is, oh, I should go reset the pushing ID when the animation completes. But then I'm like, that's the kind of thing that gets messy and sloppy over time and turns into spaghetti. Like weird data dependency spaghetti. So like, if I really want to know the pushing ID for animation purposes only, then why don't I just store that in the animation data? Or in the, not in the animation data. I misspoke. In the move transaction data, instead of storing it on the entity. Wouldn't that be better? I think it might. We're not even using this value hardly ever. We are using it just for this variable. Like we're declaring it up here, we're setting it here, and we're only using it here. This was only used for this variable, and I probably put that variable in before I switched the movement transaction system to the new thing. So let's look at what sets it, because I bet that'll look kind of redundant now. It doesn't look redundant to me yet. So we add a move down here. Yeah, you know what? Okay. The whole pushing ID thing. It's a little unclear because we might be pushing a row of things or things stacked on other things. So you sort of might want more than one pushing ID, but really this might be the thing that your hands are IKing to, right? And so maybe it makes sense that there's only one. We don't do that yet. We don't do inverse kinematics on the hands. But yeah, so I don't know. So here's the thing. For evaluating this variable, which is what will fix the bug for the animation system, I could just look through the transactions that this guy is in and say, is any of them a push or a pull? Because that variable doesn't need to know who we're pushing, right? And then the question is, do I leave this variable on the guy or not? And my inclination is no. We'll just delete it to keep things simple, even though we might put it back later to use it. Let's look at that. So when we're in graph, right? So instead of saying pushing, not transition, no, not transition, move transaction. It's been a little bit since I worked on this code base, so there we go. So I think down here I have maybe some query functions. I had get Lily move transaction there. This is some code that we're going to be working on if we do some more streams. Just because I never totally finished this whole conversion. Like the game works this way now. It uses these transactions, but there are like corner cases that are not well handled yet. Okay, I don't seem to have queries down here. Anyway, the different transaction types, well, there's a pull and a push. So instead of looking at this variable on the guy and then having to reset it at various times and maybe not having that reset be correct, since the system that actually cares about this is the animation system, we will be more robust if we handle this just by saying, you know, are you in a move transaction? So let's, instead of doing this, let's say is pushing is false, is pushing, right? And then here we're just going to say just going to make functions for this. If we're in a pushing transaction, we're just going to say this. Is pushing equals that. That's going to return bool. Well, you know what? Let's just do this. That's simpler, apparently. Okay, so now, well, hold on. This is a little fiddly. Anyway, so we're going to go here, and we're going to go, are we in a pushing transaction? You know what? I always start out by returning Boolean, and then I end up returning the pointer for more information, you know? So let's take for granted that we're going to do that, and we're just going to cast that pointer to bool here, right? Okay. So I think we go through, oh, you know what? I think we do want to return both of these. So we're going to do a bunch of stuff. And if we don't find anything, we're going to return null null, right? Okay, if we do find something, for single is managed. Okay, so if something, we're going to return transaction single, right? And that's just going to be if single dot move info dot move type is equal to well, let's get tricky here. We're going to make this do I really want to do that? Am I abusing polymorphism? I was going to do a thing here. No, we're not even going to do it. In typed, in this type of transaction. All right. Single move info dot move type is equal to type. We return those. Okay. Return T single is in this type of transaction E move type dot ooh. Yeah, I need to make sure I need to remember how these things are structured. So this should be is it the case that if I'm pushing, I'm in slot 0? Right? So what happened was I was assuming that, because I haven't worked on this system for a while, I was assuming that there would be a move that says pushing, but it doesn't work that way. It just says the thing that is being pushed or pulled has a move, right? And then I think that's in the same transaction with the guy doing the pushing in the first slot. which is easily something we can check for here. It's just that, you know, we want to make sure that we know these things. I'm just going to assume this is how it is. And we'll put in like some debugging to make sure that it's working. All right. So we're going to, let me just finish this part, right? So these are just our, you know, maybe we should have just had our callers call this directly, but, you know, whatever. We did it this way. And then, okay. So I want to check slot 0 to see if it's our guy. So if not, let's call this T, right? And that was T. Let's have a short name for it. If it's not the case that both T is true and, or T dot, we need it to have some moves, right? I don't trust operator precedence for some reason. Single moves sub 0 dots where's single move? Single move, bro. There it is. Dot entity ID is equal to ID. Continue. Let me just break that up. Because you know what? Why think that hard? So if we don't have any moves, if the first move is not us, continue. Okay, otherwise, if there's a pushed or a pulled or whatever we're calling in there, we return it. Seems reasonable. Why do I have so many windows open? Oh my God. What? There's too many. There's just too many. All right. How are things going, people? We're not returning a value through all our control paths. I don't know. Right. We didn't want to do that if. Oh, these are by pointer already. For some reason, I thought they were by value, so we just do that. All right. You're liking the big way? It's not that big. I guess it is big. You know, because I had to reset up OBS. I guess it got bigger than it was. All right. I didn't actually add debugging info like I said I was. Let's just see, first of all, here it's hard to push things. This has blocks in it that I could push. I mean, he looks like he's pushing, so that's not obviously broken. So that's great. I just Alt F4'd the chat window because that's how computers work now. When you're multi-monitor, you can't tell what's going on. Let's pop it out again. Yeah, I tell you, my life glancing over and reading chat while trying to concentrate on intelligent topics, it gets pretty hard sometimes. All right. So, something happened on this level. This level is, yeah. So, let's actually go to our variable lookup. And I'm just going to add a stupid thing. Where is it called? Fast report, game report, short game report. I'm just going to do this. I just want to know that this is functioning seemingly, and then if some aspect of it is not totally working, then the animator will like tell me or something. Oh, you know what? I never reverted from that second incorrect carry base. I don't think that's going to affect this, but okay, we're not seeing anything on the screen. Maybe he's not using these variables yet. It sure looks that way. If pushing, start carry pushing. So if I'm carrying someone, yeah, he's only using this in the carry states. So let's go back here. Let's do all sorts of things to this, right? So let's make it a non-wrapping level anymore. How do I do this? I don't even remember. There we go. We're going to do that. We're going to pull this up. We're going to give ourselves a lot more squares. We're going to chop that. Going to bring this over and down, and you go down there, and then okay. And then whoop, no, not that. Not that. Now I'm forgetting my keybinds. How do I just did this effortlessly before. Oh, there we go. I was like, how do I make more floor? I forgot. Okay, so now we want this guy to carry someone and push things. So we'll get another character in the scene. Oops. Okay. Our camera's in a little bit of a weird place, but all right. So he's just got someone on his head. He's carrying and pushing things, but we're still not. Oh, there we go. So he's using it for like only in some. It's like I don't even know. It's only being used in some rare transition cases that I'm not even sure what they are, but they're happening sometimes. And then okay. I'm not sure. This doesn't make that much sense, this animation. We might have to talk about this. Because you can't stand on someone's back like that. He's just trying to make sense of the problem that we have here is that the character like needs to fit under a thing that's like 1 square high, right? If someone's on top. We don't have that good of a camera view. There we go. See, that's why he's like bending down that far. But like, physically it doesn't make that much sense. Maybe it's fine. It's just what we have to do. Okay, any questions about what I did there? I'm going to check this in and I'm going to say, oh, you know what? We're going to remove, before we check it in, we're going to remove the extra variables. By which I mean, we're not actually going to remove them yet because we're going to leave them there for deserialization purposes. I haven't actually put in the thing that we had in the witness where you could actually get rid of the data member here. So we're just going to say, we're just going to make sure we are not using it anymore. And we're going to mark it as ending in version 13. And we're going to upgrade Guy to 14. And then if we want to bring those back, we'll just reintroduce them, like whatever. Okay. So pushing ID, pulling ID. I didn't like that. All right, so is anyone else setting pushing ID, pulling ID? Okay. So I think that'll do it. Did I get rid of the no check-in stuff? Well, that's a good question. That would have been a graph. Nope. Let's do that. So I think that's it. I think I check this in and I say, maybe it works. If it doesn't, give me a clear repro. Yeah. Okay. It seems like this variable is only used very rarely. So I wasn't able to have a clear repro case. If it doesn't work, let me know, exclamation point. Boom, okay. So that is off the bug list. We have another bug. Move accel time doesn't affect anything. Changing, oh, let's revert, because we still have our old file here. Carry base, revert. That had our intentional mess up. We're going to add a new intentional mess up. Repro steps for this. State active to walking. So when these states are declared, you have the ability to set properties on them, right? And one of those is supposed to be the amount of time that it takes you to accelerate. However, I changed that the way that that was implemented when I did this new move transaction system, and it seems quite likely that I broke it. So if I put in a totally unreasonable time here, it should like take a long time for people to accelerate, but I don't, yeah, it doesn't actually. So that's a question. Why? So let's just look at what we did again. Get move speed override. Oh, that's move speed. This is accel time. It's different. Do guy controller has the acceleration in it. Okay. So I have this note here. Oh, that's hard-coded, but the acceleration is not. Accel time is on info. Info is, what the hell is info? It's the move info. Accel time. Well, that's set to -1. Get accel time. Okay. Okay, so it looks to me like it's quite possible nobody calls this. Let's look elsewhere. Get accel time. Yeah, just nobody calls this anymore, which is not that surprising. So when I did this thing, right, it's quite plausible to me that this value is correctly stored in the animation graph. We're just not using it because nobody calls this function that uses it. Because that's what happens when you edit code a bunch. Just sometimes things go away. You did it by writing programs that called other programs. Yeah, that's not a good way to do things. I mean, it was fine in like 1980. What do you do to create the repro data for the bug? No, somebody just typed in, do this. We didn't create repro data. Okay, so I can call this when we add the move transaction, except See, when we add the transaction, we haven't necessarily done the animation. Like you sort of just want to re-get this every frame. You don't want to store it somewhere. So we're just going to say get Excel time every frame. That also didn't do anything. Let's print that out. Was it called fast report? I don't know. It's not called fast. What was it called? Short game report. I don't know. Maybe I have other ones. Don't remember what they're called. Ah. Oh. Wait, that's weird. What? Why would that break? What was ist happening? What are we asserting? We're asserting that our string, oh, we're like loading an entity. I screwed up the entity somehow. No. Okay, so this is a problem that I did not want to have, honestly. So, haven't been working on the game for a while. I just edited some fields of the entity to like remove a thing, and now we're trying to load undo data, which has nothing to do with what I'm trying to work on right now. And that's complaining, which isn't that surprising because I gave it an overhaul and didn't like finish. But I'm kind of... Oh, okay. Here's the thing. This might need to get fixed. I vaguely remember something going on. Okay, we have a problem. The problem is as follows. I'm loading undo data for a level. And that's in a serialized form, right? We load it, and then when you undo it, we like deserialize it. Problem is, when we apply diffs of entities now, okay, it's hard to explain. Like, the way the code is set up, right, you read fields out of this undo data in order to either update an entity forward or backward in time. And the way that you know which fields to pay attention to is with the entity's version number. Now, the problem that I have is that if we save back the same undo data with an old entity and then add some undo frames from a new entity, right, or a new version of the entity, I just didn't think sufficiently about this when I was writing this code. When you're going from, frame n to frame n-1 with undo, there's like not one relevant version of the entity. There's two, right? Because the one at frame n is like version 14, and the one at frame n-1 is version 13. And so either I have to make sure that I record that in each frame, which we may be doing already, but then we need to take that information into account, which isn't happening here. Like what happens is we go through this loop and we say, is this a relevant field that we need to care about? The way we do that, though, is using this old manifest.base entity version, which is just the version of what the entity was like at the beginning of the undo chain. We're like not tracking changes in the versions over the course of the undo chain. So I need to actually think about what to do about that. And last time I was working on this game, before I went off and did 17 other things, I remember thinking like, oh man, this is a big problem. I don't want to do it right now. But I didn't fix it. And now that I dared to change an entity version number, not only is that going to break for me, but that's going to break for like everybody. Because I checked in that change, didn't I? Yes. So I actually, post haste, before we do anything else, I need to turn off loading save games again until this is fixed. Because until it's fixed, it's just going to cause problems for everybody. So here in load undo data, we're just going to say return false, disabled by me due to inherent problems. I will hopefully fix it soon. We're just going to make sure this compiles, and then we're just, we're going to make sure it runs. And then we're just going to check in that one change, because I could be disrupting workflow for everybody. All right, what file was that in? That was in campaign. So in Braid, we had essentially a similar thing where we're saving entity data over the course of gameplay, but we didn't ever save that to disk. Like when you load a save game in Braid, it just remembers what puzzle pieces you've collected and what levels you've been to and what levels you've finished and all that. It doesn't actually save out the data. And then even if it did, it probably wouldn't, it probably wouldn't have this mixed version thing that we have going on. Okay, before you start bad-mouthing compile time execution, I would recommend that you go watch some of the demos of what we do with it, with a metaprogram, and then you'll at least know what it's for. Because I agree that it could be gimmicky in some circumstances, but the way that we use it is quite powerful and is not really a thing that you could do a different way. So if you look at the YouTube videos about like code, I forget what exactly they're called. One of them is called code browsing. Another one, there's the one where we implement the compile time checks for things like, you know, the equivalent of the MISRA C automotive checks and stuff. Like if you look up that stuff, you'll see why it is considered a very strong feature in this language. Why would the entity version change mid undo stream? Because we're saving your progress within a level to disk, right? So I played a level somewhat and then saved that out. And then I edited the entity data to remove, or the entity struct to remove that pulling and pushing those members. And then I went and played that level some more and added some more frames. And so now you have frames from the entity at two different versions in the middle of that undo data, which is just not something that we ever had to deal with in any other game that I shipped, so I didn't think sufficiently about it. You might say, well, that's only a developer problem. That's not going to happen when ship, but sure it will. We will want to add fields to entities, you know, when we patch the game or whatever. That's just a thing that happens. So I'm going to have to solve it one way or another. One way might be to like rewrite all the data to update the entity. That's kind of gross. Another way might be to just make the update loop more complicated and compare the old version and the new version. Who's beeping out there, man? Stop it. Will we remove the versioning stuff? No. No, you want versioning in full release. Because again, you want to be able to add fields or whatever when you release new versions of the game and you still want to load people's save games. Have I watched any of the GDC virtual talks? No, not really. I don't typically go to GDC. If people talk about like, oh, there's a really good talk, I might look it up, but that usually doesn't happen. Okay, so hopefully we've averted the catastrophe that I partially caused. Now, okay, so see, the funny thing that happened was I added this line, and then I was getting that assertion in a string thing, which was like why I ran the debugger. I was like, why would this fit? Because I did this temporary print, and it's like, wait, what? There's an error in string handling, so I thought it was this, but it wasn't. It was in the save game loading. Okay, so now we may be able to go back and do our thing. Could you quickly replay the user inputs so far using the new entity version from the start? No, you can't use the new entity version on the old data. That's the whole point. It would be incorrect. Okay, so we're calling getExcelTime, and it's a low value, but I don't remember which graph node. Active to walking. Well, active to walking. ExcelTime 5.4. There we go. It's just she's not in that very often. It's just okay, so she's active. She's going active to walking, and it just didn't. Oh yeah, there we go. That was very gummy. So if I'm here and I say go, yeah, it was pretty gummy. See that? Okay. So what happened there was the acceleration time was really slow because it's like 5.4. I could leave this open and just hot load it. And like she exited the state before she even accelerated that much into the neighboring square. So once she exited the state into a different state that had a different acceleration value, she sped up. So yeah. We've got a little bit of hitches due to loading animation data, but like, and then I can turn that up. So I can go O.4 or whatever, and this should be more reasonable. Like, yeah. Okay, so we're going to delete this thing. Where was our no check-in? Where was that? Movement visuals. Oh, yeah. So the thing is, see, do I get rid of info.excel time? Well, I mean, then we're testing out more versioning stuff. Because we added versioning to this stuff. I'm just not going to do it yet. I'm going to leave it there and we'll just leave it 1.0. Because I don't want to magnify the number of bugs that I have to go deal with. And then we had this get accel time. There's also get decel distance, which we are also maybe not using. We'll just put a little epsilon there, right? And then I just want to run around with that a little bit and make sure, oh, Excel time. Oh, we're using, oh no. Okay. This is, this is a problem. So this is actually, it's not a new problem. This is revealing a problem that was already there that I wasn't paying sufficient attention to. So the deal is, you know, when we start a move, we're saying how long the move is going to be. And we're taking this acceleration time into account. And the problem is the acceleration time depends on where you are in the animation graph. And we probably do this first before we consult the animation graph. I'm just going to say it changes based on animation graph node, but we probably update the animation graph after running this, maybe? Question mark. Okay. So we'll check that. But not now. Wow, I keep using this. Oh yeah, I just didn't do this. I would not recommend anyone to use Emacs. It's a dead editor. Am I not doing hot code reload? No, I'm not doing hot code reload. I typically don't, I've thought about putting that in. It would be a fun thing to do, but the problem is it just doesn't work if you change data structures. So I don't like investing in methods that only work sometimes and that are a little bit error prone. Like I thought I was hot reloading my code. I thought I didn't change my data, but I accidentally did or whatever. If we can do it where we are very foolproof about detecting that things have changed and telling you that you goofed, then that's fine. Thought about VS Code. I don't have any thoughts about VS Code. I tried to use it for 10 minutes. It wasn't good. It's like, okay, whatever, guys. So I'm just kind of running around. Let me go to a level where I could push some things. Yeah, so it doesn't seem that unreasonable, but there's potential issues with the timing. Okay. Commit. We did some stuff to move Excel time. Let's go back and revert the change that we did here. Or did I change it back to exactly the original value? Weird. Okay. Okay. All right. Next one's going to be interesting. Oh, geez. Can I ask for a moratorium on pro versus anti-object-oriented programming in the discussion? It's just so boring. Look, someone new has showed up who thinks it's fine. That's fine. We don't need to dominate. We don't need to dominate the entire discussion with a well-worn topic because of that. You can take it offline. It's, yeah. This is one of the reasons why I haven't actually been streaming that much lately is because, you go and you do the stream and then everyone in chat is like talking about text editors or everyone's talking about IDEs or everyone's talking about object-oriented programming or whatever bike shedding thing, right? And it's just Like, why am I here trying to do anything that's not those things if those are just the things that people want to talk about and think about, you know? Like, if you guys really want to talk about editors all day, why am I here? Now, of course, that's not really what happens. What happens is just some people push the discussion in that direction, and then there's just like a group dynamic to it, whereas it's probably not actually what a lot of people want to talk about. Yeah. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people watching and only a few of them chat. It's just annoying for me. I mean, I'm trying to think about, like, the next problem that I'm going to work on is kind of hard to think about. And with, like, you know, people yapping in my ear about object-oriented programming, it's just hard to do. And so I don't really have a good solution for this, because the problem is just inherent in the structure of something like Twitch. It's not anybody out there's fault. But, like, man, it just happens every time. Every time. Can I set custom square? I could make OOP a custom square word. I don't know what to do about it. Can't see what Twitch chat would ever help you think about a hard problem. I just ignore it. The problem is, if I ignore Twitch chat, I don't notice when I'm muted or the screen is black for 20 minutes while I'm programming. Does it happen to program for like 8 hours straight without compiling at all? On rare cases, if I'm doing a very large rewrite of a big system that touches a lot of things, yes. Otherwise, no. I think if you're doing that every day, it's hard to generalize like this, but I would say that that's probably a bad sign if that's your typical workday. It might, you know, but everybody's different. You know, if you're more beginning, then I totally understand maybe working for a long time without hitting compile. Depending what kind of system you're working on, if it's just a crazy mess, I guess I understand it. I don't know. How do you go about designing the resource management system? Well, that's something that we haven't totally, you know, obviously we're loading quote unquote resources like animations and sound effects and all that. But what's in there right now is just a sort of a demand loading thing that is not something you would want to ship, right? So there are little stutters, for example, every time I load the game and I animate the character in a certain way because it's realizing like, oh, I need to load this particular animation and it's not loaded, right? When the game is shipping, you would typically do something where you preload things that are important to load like that, and you don't have hitches. Because we haven't done that on this game yet, I don't have much to say about it. We did some stuff on The Witness. It was way more complicated than I wish it was. I didn't really... You know, it was one of those things where it got complicated enough that I didn't understand what was going on all the time, and I just didn't want to look at it. Like, I think that kind of thing should be simple. I don't feel like it'll be very hard, but we have yet to see. It sort of depends, like, for some classes of assets, you can load all of the ones that you're ever going to want at startup. Like that might be true for animations in this game. For modern computers with modern amounts of memory, we might just be able to say, look, load all the animations at startup, and we're good. And then you just make sure that there's a binary format that is efficient to load, and that you don't spend time parsing things at startup. Other classes of resource, that's not true. So like texture maps or whatever, you probably for this game. Well, I don't know. For some platforms, maybe it depends on the game. It depends on the platform. If we can't load all the texture maps in advance, then we have to do something like, oh, we're going to go onto this level. So while we know that's happening, start demand loading things in the background. That starts to get more complicated, right? But we haven't done any of that yet for shipping. So I can't say what it's finally going to be. Will I ever make a multiplayer game? Yes, I will probably do that sometime around 1996. Will there be some sort of asset streaming system in the engine that ships with the programming language? I mean, we'll probably have a system in there, but it probably won't be abstracted into its own thing. It'll probably just be like, here's the engine, and it also loads out. It won't be like a library necessarily. Unless we find a good way to do that, but that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that's super factorable. In the Witness, the code for the different kinds of puzzles is exactly the same code. You go through the same code when you're tracing a panel as something not on a panel. We have a shared baked asset cache. No, we tend to have the source files in source control, especially because those tend to be diffable. Like our animation format here is a text format, just so that it's diffable, so that edits and stuff go through source control nicely. And then the things that we currently compile to binary assets, which is not everything yet, just get built on your local machine separately. So that does take time when you start the game up. It doesn't take that much time, and you can accelerate that sometimes by like having a process run at 1 a.m. to do that or whatever. Do I have any reason not to do sub-only chat? I'm not convinced that the chat from subs is higher quality than the chat from non-subs. I'm not sure. I don't have a good way to visualize that, but that's my initial thought about that. I mean, maybe it is. Would I say that the engine is adaptable for someone other than me? Probably. We'll see. I mean, it's trying not to be too complicated, but it also has to do some things. So I don't know. Okay. You know what? We're going to take a break from streaming right now because it's already been, I know the stream timer just says like an hour and a half or something, but that doesn't include all the times that we restarted. So I think we're going to take a break. We're going to come back later today and do some more. Let's talk about what we're going to do when we come back. We are going to let's see if we can repro the situation. It might not even be in, let me see. I'll describe to you at least what the basic problem is. So when you have one character like this and then another character on his back, let's get the animation hitches out of the way from loading the animations like I was talking about. So there's a few weird things. Right now, one is when I turn, the character on top is just snap turning. So we're going to want to do that. But secondly, you'll notice the character on top is like doing, it's a very low effort animation right now, but she's doing like this wobble animation, like, oh, I'm on this guy's back. And so eventually, once we get the turning smoothed out and all that, that hopefully looks good. The issue is that animation, that wobbling animation or whatever, is supposed to be timed in sync with the motion of the person underneath. So if their shoulders go up and down, the person on top goes up and down in sync. But when you move forward, we don't necessarily play the move forward animation starting at 0 because we do some foot matching based on, oh, what pose were you in and what's the closest frame in that animation to where you are. And so there's flags in the animation graph about whether this animation should use foot matching or not, right? But what there isn't is to say, oh, like I'm being carried by someone else. So this animation is like associated frame by frame with their animation. And so you know, like if that person's carry animation starts later, mine should start later as well. Like that's not a thing in the system right now, and it will need to be. So, yeah. So the first thing to do is probably just to program in a way to flag things that way. The second thing to do is well, make sure it works somehow. And then the third thing to do is maybe start thinking about this turning, because I was sort of delaying that for a long time while I did the new move transaction system, but now that's in there. And so we probably should be able to do this in a better way now. I put this in as just a temporary hack so we could do gameplay stuff, but we probably should be able to do it a better way now. We'll see. So that's what is going to be next. Let's see. We haven't raided anybody in a long time. So let's see if there's anybody. Oh. Well, we can't raid somebody who's not even there. Let's see. Are there lots of people doing science and technology now? Drag object does not contains real file names. I didn't want to drag it. I was just trying to get my browser tab over. I don't know. You know, I'm kind of looking at all this and not seeing a lot. It's the usual story. I don't know, people. Life is hard. Is Jessica Mack going? Is that really true? I'm on a new browser. I can't search for things. I hit search over here and it's popping it up in the other window, which is not I don't care about that window. I care about this window. Oh, there's one here. Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to... Is Lion back? Nope. Nope. All right. Well, you snooze, you lose. All right, we will raid, and we will be back later on today. If I could even figure out what window to touch. Oh, what? There we go. There we go. Wait. No? I can't find anything. There we go. Thanks everyone for coming by. We will stream again later today.